What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some brand new Destiny 2 news, and initially we're going to be talking about a bunch of new changes coming to subclasses inside of Season of Dawn. Specifically, Bungie will be focusing on solar subclasses, so we'll talk about some of the pretty big changes there, and how it could interact with next season's artifact. We've got a final Iron Banner to talk about, some of the news roundups, and Bungie tip us off that we haven't quite seen all of the content and narrative stuff for Season of Undying. So we'll round up all of that and some of their responses to feedback this week, guys. If you enjoyed the video, a rating below is very much appreciated though, and otherwise, let's get into it. And so initially they say this week at Bungie, we're investing in solar energy. We wrapped up Festival of the Lost this week, but cleaning up those decorations wasn't the only thing that changed in the tower. Ikora finished her construction project, closed out all of the permits, and the Guardians launched an attack on the Undying Mind. The attack is ongoing, and all Season Pass holders can join on the Vex Offensive and transmat the finished portal from the tower to summon and defeat the Undying Minds from several different timelines. They do finish by saying that the impact of your victory has not yet been made clear, but in time you will learn more about how this will further evolve the world as we transition into the next season. And so it strikes me more than anything that they're kind of talking about narrative right there. But of course there could be other gameplay secrets and stuff like that, but generally, as they say, the impact of the victory over the Undying Mind hasn't been made fully clear, so I'm curious to hear any of your thoughts about that, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in a moment. Next though, Bungie talk about subclass changes that they're going to be introducing in Season of Dawn, and there are some fairly significant ones here. So initially, they do point out that they focus quite a lot on Arc and Void this season, but up next, the combat system team is tackling solar subclasses as our focus for gameplay updates. And so they don't specifically say that we're going to expect kind of bonuses for solar subclasses in the artifact. And of course we haven't seen those this season, but it definitely seems pretty likely that with some of these subclass changes, we will get more of them in Season of Dawn. But what are these subclass changes? Well, initially they talk about Gunslinger, Way of the Sharpshooter, which of course is the bottom path. And there are a series of changes here, so for 3-shot, they are increasing the auto-aim distance and reliability when aiming down sights, as it fulfills the role of long-range accuracy. For 6-shot, we shorten the damage fall-off range to emphasize the short-range gunfighter role with a lot of kill potential, and while it can still perform at longer ranges, it may take an extra shot to get the job done. We've made other changes to the Way of the Outlaw to help keep its potency, like adding a new explosive prox knife that can stick to surfaces and detonate when enemies pass nearby. So that sounds pretty crazy, some actual kind of new functionality inside of these subclasses. And they say all up, we want Way of the Sharpshooter to feel more active and rewarding for players who can fulfill the role of sharpshooter by taking down enemies with accuracy and precision. So it will get a new weighted knife, a high damage knife throw with a long wind up. It travels at high speeds, bounces once, and does extra damage to the head. And they do add that precision shot final blows recharge the melee completely, with a one-hit precision final blow in PvP. There is a quality of life adjustment for Practice Makes Perfect, where it lasts longer, but gives a bit less energy per second, and precision hits will grant 2 stacks. But then, there is the new Knock 'em Down. This is a perk where precision final blows increase weapon stability and ADS speed. The timer starts at 10 seconds, but any additional final blows and assists can increase it up to 25 seconds. And casting your super with this buff above 20 seconds consumes the buff and grants extra damage. They do point out that this doesn't stack with Celestial Nighthawk, but that certainly sounds very interesting. And then there is a quality of life adjustment for Line Them Up. And they say the old perks from Crowd Pleaser are now part of this perk, and so Golden Gun can cause precision damage and precision shots will generate orbs of light. And so some fairly comprehensive changes right there for Way of the Sharpshooter. Let us know what you think about those. But next, they get around to the Sunbreaker's Code of the Devastator, which is the middle tree. And specifically, they say that when the data indicated that the subclass was underperforming in PvP, they decided to make a few changes that should enable it to be more competitive. So the Roaring Flame perk has received a significant buff to its bonus damage, and the buff now lasts 25% longer, making it easier to build up and retain stacks between encounters. The base damage of Throwing Hammer melee ability has been increased, and it's now very lethal in PvP while you have Roaring Flames active. In addition, once you've thrown the hammer and it's lying on the ground, players won't have to get quite as close to actually pick it back up. And they say finally, they've tuned the super in a number of different ways. So for starters, Burning Maul now lasts longer, giving you more time to use it strategically instead of simply spamming the slam button. But they've also increased the height of the heavy slam explosion, and they say the super should feel much more potent against airborne enemies. And so specifically for more details for throwing hammer, they've increased the impact damage from 100 to 120 and increased the hammer pickup radius from 2 to 3.5 meters, and adjusted the hammer throw animation to fit a more damaging attack. Roaring Flames now has an increased damage bonus from 10% per stack to 25 per stack in PvP, and they've increased the duration from 15 to 20 seconds. And then for Burning Maul, they've increased the duration from 21.2 seconds to 28.5 seconds. And for the light attack, they've reduced the energy cost from 5% to 3%, adjusted the animation so that it flows seamlessly into chained light attacks without stopping. And then for the heavy attack, it will now detonate when it detects enemies above it, and the detonation radius was increased to make landing attacks more consistent, but they've increased the energy cost from 6 to 8%. So there are quite a lot of changes to kind of get our heads around, at least on paper right there, but they do sound like fairly practical kind of reworks and general buffs to these subclasses. And then finally we have Dawnblade's Attunement of Sky, and so that's the top path, and they say to accomplish their goals of reworking the air superiority role, they wanted to differentiate the two different Daybreak paths from one another, and so they've reduced the speed at which Burst Glide accelerates players in Daybreak. And they say that they know this will be a controversial change, but they wanted to reserve the air superiority gameplay with Attunement of Sky, and Burst Glide speed was blurring the lines between both of the Daybreak paths. And so Icarus dashes while in Daybreak have increased speed and thrust to recapture the Burst Glide gameplay, and that'll be for those running the air superiority path. And they say they hope that while the change is different, you still feel as fast as before, but with maybe a bit more expression behind that speed, and the rest of the changes are as follows. So there is a new Celestial Fire melee where you send a spiral of 3 explosive solar projectiles. That sounds pretty interesting. On top of this, Heat Rises, which is a rework where you consume a grenade to extend the glide time and dramatically reduce the in-air accuracy penalties for weapons. There's also a rework for Winged Sun, where you can fire weapons, use Celestial Fire, and throw a grenade while gliding, and Airborne Final Blows will grant melee energy and extend the duration of Heat Rises. And so there's going to be a good bit of kind of synergy between those two, but then there's the rework to Icarus Dash, and they say tap Crouch twice, of course it depends what platform you're on. This will still allow players to dodge in midair, and dodging in Daybreak accelerates players farther and costs less super energy while under the effects of Heat Rises. There is an added note here though. Due to the nature of the reworks, Wings of Sacred Dawn received a buff where it gains 15% damage resistance while Tome of Dawn is active. And so there is a bit of compensation there for that exotic specifically. And they do finish by saying that there are a whole bunch of changes the team are working on that extend beyond these 3 subclasses. And most solar subclasses in the game have had some tuning, and some non-solar subclasses also got a bit of quality of life love as well. And so let us know your thoughts about the changes that we're going to see in Season of Dawn. Do bear in mind these will come as part of the update that kicks Season 9 off, but I think it'll definitely be cool to have that kind of subclass focus shift. And some of those changes are definitely more significant than what I'd expect in terms of kind of reworks and new additions to the subclasses. So once again, let us know your thoughts. And there has been a little bit of conversation already about Solar Week and whether that could be a thing. Some folks wondered whether that was what Bungie were going to talk about in the TWAB. Of course it has potential to be a thing, but definitely not confirmed just yet. However, next week, Lord Saladin will return to the tower for the final time during Season of Undying. And so Bungie say this will be the final shot at earning pinnacle rewards from the Iron Banner until next season, and so they will be keeping pinnacle rewards inside of the Iron Banner. And Bungie say if you haven't finished up your seasonal pursuit, make sure you do it before the end of the event on December 3rd. So Iron Banner Control will start on November 26th at 9 AM PT, which of course is 5 PM in the UK. And they do finish by saying we'll be featuring a reprised armor set next season, and so if you want to get some pieces from this set, grab them quick. Saladin is also offering enhanced mods and other items in exchange for Iron Banner tokens that you may have collected. They do say that you can turn them in now, or bank them for when Iron Banner returns next season, and presumably we'll have a pretty kind of similar quest system. Also interesting that Bungie confirm we will be getting a reprised armor set for Iron Banner next season, so that's something to bear in mind right there. And otherwise, specifically in this week at Bungie, they do point out that Guardians raised $1.6 million as part of the Game to Give fundraising campaign, so obviously that's absolutely incredible and is another fantastic effort on the part of the Destiny community. Also in TWAB, if you want to check it out, is a reveal for a Destiny official cookbook, which is something I definitely wasn't anticipating seeing. You can see the artwork for that one right there. and for the Destiny Grimoire Anthology Volume 3, which they say is coming late in 2020. So if you want to check those details out, you can in This Week at Bungie linked below. Up next though, with so much conversation about the final assault over the past few days, I mean, it has pretty much been everywhere, all over YouTube, Reddit, and the forums and stuff, but also with some of the concerns over the content roadmap and the quality of content inside of Season Undying specifically, DMG did jump in and respond to a comment about whether player feedback is really relevant, and specifically, it was in reference to Season of Dawn, which is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And so DMG said that the team is digesting feedback over the Season of Undying every day, and while there may not be time to make monumental shifts in development for next season, the feedback that we're seeing today could lead to changes midway through the season, or how we approach different aspects of Destiny as a whole. I understand that there is some frustration that many items of feedback can't be rapidly addressed, but I still feel it's incredibly important for you to sound off with feedback whenever you have it, and the longer that feedback is given, the more weight it has when it comes to priorities. He goes on to say that time will always be our enemy, but I have to stress that your voices are heard internally. I talk with people on the development floor every day about your feedback, and it's incredibly valuable to us. And he does finish by saying that he hopes that each set of patch notes for Season of Dawn will have various bullet points that indirectly communicate that we're indeed listening and acting when possible. And so some pretty candid conversation right there, of course. With us being very close to Season of Dawn, any feedback that's happening right now, literally 2 weeks out, isn't necessarily stuff that they can kind of implement or act on. But it does say, of course, that they can look at adjustments that they'll make midway through the season or after the kind of initial launch of content for Season of Dawn. And a kind of minor tease there that we are going to see a few somewhat significant changes to some of the systems that players are talking about when we get the full details for Season of Dawn. And so I thought that was worth covering in the video. Otherwise, one of those common points of feedback does include elemental affinity on armor, and we've spoken about it an awful lot, but DMG says that they are collecting feedback on how they currently work and what players would like to see. And so if you have any thoughts, be sure to post them. And so once again, be sure to give me any of your opinions on Season of Undying, the content drop we've had with Shadowkeep, and any expectations or concerns for the Season of Dawn content that'll be dropping in a couple of weeks. Here though, on the subject of Final Assault, a few folks have been discussing a kind of bizarre email from Bungie about the assault, and it does say Guardians have been battling the Vex invasion throughout the system, and now a hidden location has been uncovered and the Final Assault begins. And so everyone's asking the question, what hidden location has been uncovered? I guess it could just be a kind of poorly worded reference to the timeline where the Undying Mind exists, but the Black Garden itself, the area where we fight the Undying Mind, isn't a new location, and we're not kind of aware of any other hidden areas associated with this piece of content. So what do you guys think? Are we missing something? Or do you guys think that the wording in the email right there is just a little bit misleading? Either way, for today guys, be sure to let us know your thoughts on any of the stuff we've covered in the video. I'll have all of the relevant links and sources in the description below, but if you've enjoyed this one, a like rating is very much appreciated, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to get subscribed to keep posted on all of the news leading up to Season of Dawn. You can also turn on notifications if you don't want to miss out on anything. I know that we're very hungry for more info, so I'll be sure to keep you up to date. Also, quick shout before we finish the video, but check out my sponsor at Into the AM, who have some really cool clothing in their store, and they've just launched a new fall collection. They do some really cool graphic shirts, hoodies, hats, bandanas, and a bunch of other accessories, so if you like the look of any of that stuff, you can save 10% in the store using code Houndish, and the link for that is in the description as well. Otherwise guys, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have an awesome day.